Peter Franklin is a Gabby Cabby in New York City. Peter, good morning. We're dealing with a snow event up here. Is it snowing in New York?
No, it isn't. As a matter of fact, the sun is shining, and it's about 95 today, and we're going to the beach.
I figured. It feels like a trip to Miami when we go to New York.
That's right, because it is south. We're southern, as you all.
I do have to say, yesterday the pipe bomb that went off in the subway tunnel. It was very interesting. That's in Times Square, just a few blocks uptown. People are waving to the cameras on TV like nothing ever happened. New York moved forward, and it sounds like there was some real heroics by the police officers.
Yeah, well, they obviously are trained in what to do, and they grabbed his cell phone because they say in the newspapers anyway that usually these guys have a second trigger, and that's why they got to get that away from him. Turns out he's a Brooklyn cab driver. Excuse me, folks. I'm sorry.
Wow. But he did say he's been inspired by ISIS.
Yeah, well, you know, he gets his inspiration. My inspiration used to be Lana Turner and Betty Grable.
His is trying to blow people up. But again, the other thing I didn't realize, since 9/11, New York City has a terrorist team that works hand in hand with the FBI. And I think it's pretty impressive to the point where these are just not your men in blue. These are agents of the New York City Police Department that in some cases travel the world to get intel on potential attacks targeted at New York City. It's pretty impressive what New York City has put together.
Yeah, and also, you know, you see them when they show up with their steel helmets and their bulletproof vests and their machine guns, and, you know, it's really quite impressive. And it seems to be involved in that. If you're a counterterrorism person, you have to be at least 9 foot tall and 400 pounds. I mean, these are giant human beings.
Yeah.
No, they seem to be doing a good job. And as a matter of fact, the police department is very sensitive to the fact of talking. I think yesterday, for the first time, one of these commissioners mentioned that they've foiled 29 plots or something or other. So there must be an awful lot of stuff going on. Well, you know, the media calls us the #1 target in the world. So thank you, everybody.
I want to ask you about, and this is, normally we agree, Peter, but I cannot agree with you on the President Trump issue and the media. And I understand the media has been, there have been certain reporters have been caught in not so factual reporting, but they've been disciplined. This whole thing that the media is just fake news is nothing but rhetoric. In most cases, they check with 2 sources in almost every case, which is not what we can say about the president. He gets a whim and he tweets it out as if it's fact. So that part,
I don't understand what you mean that you're disagreeing with me. I don't think he's right when he says this fake news thing.
I guess in your cabs, most people have zero respect. And you are able to conduct your own cab polls, if you will. It's people you talk to. In your cabs, people are buying this. They don't believe the media is fair.
They are buying it. I'm sort of your chief correspondent. I'm reporting it, but I don't necessarily believe in it. I agree with you about the fact that a legitimate and reliable media people will have a couple of sources and what have you.
Yeah.
But it's just like every time Trump sticks his foot in his mouth, it becomes the biggest deal in the world, and every time the media makes a mistake, it becomes the biggest deal in the world, but life goes on.
Yeah. All right.
No,
that's fair.
we got a real mess. I mean, I don't think in my entire lifetime and your lifetime and your listeners' lifetime there's been as much venom floating around as there is now.
And I certainly agree with that. Let's talk about some real fun, and that is finally the governor's office is being investigated by the FBI. What are you hearing?
Well, I mean, people in New York City aren't really against him in the sense that, you know, to be against him, you'd have to be in favor of de Blasio, and de Blasio is considered just as bad as Cuomo.
Yeah.
So, you know, whose side are you going to get on? But it's an interesting situation that the FBI would be starting to investigate the governor of New York State. So it's just another one of this venom that's just floating around. It's like there isn't a day that goes by that you don't pick up the newspapers. I don't know. I'm finding most people are very unhappy, really. They're just unhappy with life.
I think you're absolutely right. I don't think I've ever seen it, and certainly we haven't lived that long, but I don't think I've ever seen anything like this as bad as it is. People polarized and on opposite sides.
Yeah, and I have to, I mean, look, I've spent a lifetime talking to people in the back of the hack, and I'm very careful now about going down any path, because it's not just a question of driving somebody in from Kennedy Airport. You're with them for like 45 minutes or 2 days, depending on the traffic. And the fact of the matter is, I got to be very careful, because I don't want anybody to just like harass me because I said something that looks like I'm in favor of somebody.
Best tour in New York City, Peter. We're under a time delay. I appreciate it. New York City's Peter Franklin, Gabby Cabby.